Hello and welcome to the Lady Musgrave Trust Annual Forum on Women and Homelessness. Before we get underway today, I'd like to invite Auntie Deb Sandy to the stage to deliver a welcome to country.
I hope those ladies made it here, the accident. They're still on their way. Okay, because we're just kind of hanging off there for a little bit. There's an accident and some are still on their way stuck in traffic. So good morning, my name is Deborah Sandy. I'm daughter of Uncle Des Sandy, for those of you who might know my dad. Brisbane Yagara, and also my mother and her tribal people, which are from Mount Tamborine, so Wanjambara country. Yuga Bear's language up there, Mount Tamborine. So I'm a descendant of the King Kulum, Mount Tamborine. And Malanjali, so I'm Malanjali that way, on my mother's tribal people. Here in Brisbane, Bungaree, my ancestor, was born right here in Gardens Point, Botanical Gardens. So, this was once upon a time a birthing place, of the women. Women's area and place too. This here particular area, this particular place where we are in the heart of Brisbane is Magunchin, is what we call, traditional Aboriginal name for Brisbane, which goes from here to the women's area now, the women's place, from here at North Quay down to Breakfast Creek. And so on to kind of back again, head over there towards Mount Cootha and that, so Cootha is our mountain woman's place and woman's dreaming. Cootha, the traditional Aboriginal name, and that, home of the native stingless honeybee. Yeah, so the ancestors. And by the way, John Oxley, for those of you who don't know, when he sailed up the Brisbane River, and that, does anybody know why they called it Breakfast Creek? Like Breakfast Creek? No. He stopped there, and they had breakfast. So hence the name Breakfast Creek. Yeah, so right down there where Newstead House is, and is also where the women used to be too, with the children and the young ones, and that's where they would have their ceremonies too, right where they built Newstead House, just by the river, right on the bend to Gulluwa, that's what we call, down on that place, the heart of the river and the heart of country coming into river. So, yeah, and that's where the women, they would do ceremony and have their corroborees and, so here, is where ancestors, they were born, and that Megan or Bungaree, and that, so, and over the years got the names changed to Sandy, and that's, so, descendant of, now the King Sandys of Brisbane. Here in Yagara's language, so on this side of the river, Chepra, and that from the Chepra, tribal group, and ancestors who I like to acknowledge for north side, south side, is Billin or King Jackie, and that the same, when they handed out the breastplates, and again, they changed their name, so Billin for south side is the ancestor, whom I like to acknowledge. Now, those two regional head men, you see they had children and they married. So that's why I have rights on both sides of the river, yeah. And that, the Worrell is what we call the river. So, that takes my country, all the way from this side of the Caboolture River, all the way to Toowoomba, the range, and you might well say, and down to the Logan and back again. So that's my connection to country, and that's my tribal homelands. The south side too, and that is across there, the Worrell, South Bank, and that's the woman's place and area too. Yeah, the women would have to do their business over there on Musgrave Park and where the Bora rings are. Well, they were, and that started at Somerville House, the small ring, and you have a pathway that goes down into where it was, towards Musgrave Park, down towards the river, and down to, so from South Bank to around the River's Bend, West End, up to Dutton Park, where the bridge goes over to St. Lucia, the university. And that's all of that's the women's area too, and place, you know. And the storyline, you know, goes over there in that place called Kurilpa. Yeah. So Kurilpa, where the Kurilpa Bridge is, and here, just where the Story Bridge is, was the crossover points. So where the Aboriginal people, they could walk across the river and back again. They would put their children on their shoulders and then just, you know, walk across back and forwards. Because over the years, you see, they dredged that river. So, and all the silt, you know, in the sand here washes to the miggin parts or the bends of the river. So, you know, if you watch the floods way back, you know, to the, just down here on the bends of the river, all the stuff was piling up there. Yeah, see, so the bends of the river. So, yeah, and where the canoes all used to be, you know, over there, Kurilpa and that, like the bridge and the women's area and place too, you know, in Dreaming and that. The women way back and that, hence Kurilpa. Kuril is a home and place of rats, yeah? And the women would go out with the children, yeah, in the night with their nightsticks and clap sticks and, you know, they gather up baskets and nets and hunt and gather Kuril. And the women would chuck it onto the fire and roast it and only serve it to the children, yeah? And sing Kuril, Kuril, Budgery, Kuril, Kuril, Budgery, Kuril, Kuril, Budgery. That's more or less, come here, you good little fellow, I want to eat you. Yeah, so consider that the Kentucky Fried Chicken back in the day. Yeah, so that's just some histories and, you know, stories about country and this beautiful place of where we are. Yeah, so, and now, and by the way, in men's camp and that, and the meeting place and meetups, you know, they would be up here on the ridges, you know, Gregory Terrace and, you know, the Normanby and places like that, and that St. Paul's Terrace. And then, you know, the big major camps was down in Victoria Park and that, you know, and on the ridge lines because, you know, our people, they would camp and live in high playgrounds, you know, because of the floods, yeah. And that swampy lands and area, you know, around the place. And that. Here's a true story. When the colony people first came here and sailed to country, way back, they asked their ancestors here, well, where's a good place to build the city? And the ancestors gave them good advice and said to them, fellas here, when you build your city, go up around the river's bend and that whatever you do, don't build your city here. Because if you do, you will flood for all time. What happened? They didn't listen, and you know, so it's just a common, normal thing that's just going to happen. The same story with Lismore. I heard, like what the tribal people tell me the same story, where the traditional, you know, way back, and the ancestors told the same story to them. Whatever you do, don't build your city here. Go up there into the, you know, forestry and the hills and the trees and build your city up there and, well, you know, the rest is history. So, yeah. Now, before I do welcome the country and that to each and every one of you here today, and that I got to know who you all are and where you all come from, right? Because an Aboriginal, like, you know, as we're aware that there's over hundreds and hundreds of different tribal groups, right, throughout the whole of Australia. So what you fellas all got to do is, and before you embark onto somebody else's country or their tribal homelands, you ordinarily would wait on outskirts and boundary for that tribal group to welcome you onto their tribal homelands. So what you fellas all got to do is call out your name real loud now, you know, let all the spirits here, let them all know you're here. So call out your name real loud and tell me where you all come from on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Hey, got a good one over here, yeah? Chingawala Walu, Goodnam, Wongai. On behalf of the Yagara people here of the Great Southeast, Wabalka, welcome. I welcome each and every one of you here to this sacred place on which we meet and gather this morning. Wabalka, welcome. And like the stars of the Southern Cross, which help to guide and unite us, which brought each and every one of us here to this sacred place on which we meet and gather this morning. Wabalka, welcome, yeah? Oh, Jinja, ha, Jinja, ha, Jinja. Naomi, oh, Naomi, oh, Naomi. Marumba, ha, Mugra. Marumba, ha, Mugra. Marumba, ha, Mugra. Welcome song, ladies and gentlemen. Now that song here entails, okay? So in Yagara language, Jina and Jinang is your foot, Mil is your eye. So while you fellas here come walk on country, may you get to see all the good, beautiful things this country has to offer. And Mogara is our thunder spirit, so to help and protect and keep you all safe while on country. So now I have one more thing that I want to share with each and every one of you. And by the way, good job, ladies, for what you fellas do for homeless women. And then I hear it's on the radio, it talked about all the young ones, the youth. There's so many that are homeless, now. And then, is it Mad, Baggy or Daggy Jumper Day today? Yeah. So, good. Thank you, all you women, for your services, what you do for all homelessness and people. Now, one more thing I want to share with each and every one of you fellas. Now, as the Aboriginal people, they were forbidden to practice their culture and they weren't allowed to speak their language. So you fellas here are going to help me keep the Yagara language alive. So can you just repeat this after me? Merijin. Merijin means star in the Yagara language. So keep on shining, everybody. Thank you very much. Most of all, welcome to country. Your way. Burki!
Thank you, Auntie Deborah. What a beautiful welcome to country. It's so fascinating to hear that our city has a female history, and perhaps if there'd been some female town planners in place, we may not have had the floods that we've had over the centuries. Well done to all of you for making it here today. I know that for some who don't normally venture this far into the city, it's a big deal to get here by 9 o'clock. So appreciate you making it all the way. There are some seats up the front if anybody would like to venture forward. This year's forum is entitled A Port in the Perfect Storm: How the Housing Crisis Can Lead to Real Housing Solutions. We're here today to come together as a community to make connections and share our wisdom and our ideas. The Lady Musgrave Trust is a minnow in comparison to some other organisations who are working in this sector. But this forum is a sellout every year. It's a sellout because it brings people together to progress key housing issues, and it gives you all a little bit of breathing space to zoom out, to meet each other. Busy people working on this crisis often don't get the chance to build relationships with others. Remember that solutions to big problems only come when people put their heads together. I'm told that 2 years ago, one of the programs that was highlighted in the discussion here ended up being funded because the right person was in the room. So at the risk of sounding like a game show host, that could be you, and it could be today. So we'd better get underway. This beautiful venue has been kindly donated by the QUT Centre for Justice. So please welcome Professor Rowena Maguire, who's the Director of the Centre for Justice. Thanks, Rowena.
Thank you all for coming this morning. It's our incredible honour and privilege to host you here this morning, and moving forward quickly into the conversation, a huge thank you to Auntie Deb for that thoughtful, inspiring and informative talk for all of us here. And I would like to just acknowledge that QUT stands on the traditional lands of the Turrbal and Yagara people, and that these places have always been places of teaching, learning and research. So let's kick off with a little bit to the next slide. Just a little bit about the Centre for Justice, who is hosting the event today. So we are the largest HAS-based discipline research centre at QUT. So we bring all the people together that work on the social science-based issues. In the middle of this diagram here, we can see the four main research priorities of the centre, and housing is on the outside, and housing and homelessness are issues that intersect into all four of these issues. So we look at issues of global justice, and obviously at global justice we have displacement, relocation and all sorts of other issues leading to homelessness and housing. We look at issues to do with gendered and institutional violence and justice, and here we know the pathways that happen for women around those sorts of issues as well. We focus on young people, and as we've just heard from Aunty Deb, the amount of young people that are facing these issues now also are facing homeless issues. And we also focus on social and environmental justice, and as we know, these are also drivers of housing issues and homelessness. So the centre is committed to working across with government, with industry, with civil society groups. It's a group that wants to do practical applied research and enjoys working to actually make meaningful change. Just move to the next slide. Just a little bit about some of our research that we've got going on at QUT at the moment. So we have established a QUT Housing Research Network, which is led by Dr. Lyndall Bryant down here. So this is a group of 35 researchers at QUT that are all exploring housing issues from every discipline that you can imagine. So we've got engineers, we've got economists, we've got property planners, we've got lawyers, we've got people in marketing, we have people in the creative industries, pretty much every single sector, working collaboratively to come together to come up with some innovative solutions around housing. Some of the work of our PhD students is focused on the other side, and so this is a PhD student of mine that's come to us from the community legal sector, and she's exploring unmet legal need that's arising as a result of climate change, and some of the biggest issues that are coming out of her research is to do with tenancy laws and climate change, and some of the issues that people are experiencing in the sector around mould and extreme heat in tenancy as well. And so this is Monica Taylor, and she will be producing a fantastic thesis detailing all of these later in the year. Next slide. I just want to highlight as well that we have another fantastic initiative which we're looking to support within C4J, which is the Homeless World Cup. I'm not sure if anybody in the room has heard of the Homeless World Cup. Australia is looking to host this event in the future. This is an event where everybody that participates in this event actually comes from either meeting some definition of homelessness. And so it's actually about using sport for social change. Really quite a powerful movement, brings other people into the conversation that might not be otherwise part of it, and is something quite profound, and is something that we're wanting to start to look and measure the impact of that research as well. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight that on your seats, everybody has one of these briefing papers. And so at the Centre for Justice, we produce these briefing papers, which are open access, peer-reviewed, reliable sources of information. They're written short, so they're not boring, long academic pieces that you're going to get lost in. They're pieces that you can make sense of. And in this series here, we've just got some of the pieces that are focused on housing and homelessness, which are currently available, but we do have a collection planned on this issue coming later. We're very happy to work with anybody that would like to publish in our briefing paper series. If you've got an idea or something that you want to explore in this area, please come and have a chat to me. And I'd like to now just pass on and let the conversation start. So a huge thank you, welcome, and let's see what we can achieve today.
Thank you. Thanks, Aunty Deb. Seriously, your welcomes. I've heard one of your welcomes before, and when I hear you speak, it just brings a huge smile to my face, because your sharing of culture and history and also your generosity really does touch my heart, and I could see it in the audience as well. So thank you very much. I also pay my respects to elders past and present and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Also, thank you, Rowena, for hosting us for the Centre for Justice. This is an extraordinary venue. It's our third year that we are here in this venue. It's a beautiful place. It connects us to nature, and it's also an opportunity for us all to take a breath and connect with each other and develop relationships. Also like to thank Rachel for being our MC for the second year. But Mostly, I would like to thank our speakers and you, our attendees. And I know for my own sake, it takes a lot to take time out of your day to commit to yourself and to the work you do. And so I really recognise you for taking that time and space. To our incredible lineup of speakers, it makes me humble that you agree to speak at this event. And I really encourage both speakers and our attendees, both here and online, to have a conversation today, not just on the stage and questions from the floor, but when we have our morning tea and after the event. I encourage our speakers to speak freely. We know, everyone in the room and online knows the situation, so I encourage people to go beyond that. Let's speak freely, because when we speak freely, that's when honesty and innovation can occur, and this is a safe space. Finally, we have got a number of people in our audience and on our speaking panel who have come from lived experience. And so I really hold my hand up and say thank you for being brave. Thank you for sharing your experiences for the benefit of others. Your stories are important and your voice needs to be heard. So thank you very much. So the Lady Musgrave Trust, for those that don't know much about us, we are a tiny organisation, but we've been going for a really long time. So next year is our 140th year anniversary. And for all of those years, we've been providing housing for women under the age of 30 who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. These days, that particular cohort of women require housing support predominantly because of domestic and family violence. It's almost 1 for 1. Almost 100% of the women that we serve have been impacted by violence. And so if we're here to resolve, reduce and eliminate homelessness, we need to understand its causes. And so that's why a lot of the topics that we talk about and a lot of the people that attend are at that intersection between domestic and family violence and women experiencing homelessness. So as a small organisation, we do what we can, but we pay respect to the enormous organisations and the organisations that do a lot of work, and we seek to partner with you and do our part and better understand what our part is. We don't want to duplicate or overstep our line, so we spend a lot of time working out what are we good at. And I think we have become quite clear that our potential is to partner with organisations and look to build housing supply. So our core business, while small, is to provide a safe place for young women to live. We have a small portfolio of properties of 11. We're acquiring an extra one and we're building an additional 4. So we're looking to grow those properties and increase the nights of safety. We provide transitional housing, so it's housing for women to make these places their homes. And while in these homes, we ask of them to consider what their future might look like, and we wrap around them to do whatever we can to make that possible. So there are 2 key things that we've been doing over the last year that I'm really, really proud of and would like to highlight to you. The first one is our handy guide. So many of you will have used the handy guide in your work in supporting women. Some of you have called it the Purple Book. Others have referred to it as the Bible. It's essentially a service directory of all of the organisations across Queensland that are set up to support women. And we've been distributing this for free for 14 years. And it was designed because we realised that the system of services is really hard to navigate, even for professionals who have got a clear head. It's impossible to navigate for those that are in a time of crisis. And so we developed this service directory, and we've been updating it every 2 years to assist women who need support, and also the organisations that support those women. So that's why it can be referred to as a Bible. Almost 2 years ago, we believed it needed to be updated. We were unsure of the certainty of the data that we were using, and we also wanted to go out to those that use it to see if we could improve the usability and the layout and format, etc. So fast-track 2 years, I'm very, very proud to say that the data that we're using is very certain. We're using the database of Info Exchange, which is also the back end for Ask Izzy. And I think it was actually 2 years ago we launched our online version. But so we now have a brand new Brisbane edition, Brisbane and Surrounds. We launched this about a couple of months ago, and in the first 6 weeks we distributed more than 8,000 copies, which is unprecedented. And we believe that's because the need is so great. We hear it's because for those that are finding it difficult in the front line, to assist people, at least they can give them something, and inside this book is information and connection to services that can assist them. So the Brisbane edition has been out for some time, but hot off the press, it is still actually warm, is our regional Queensland handy guide. It is a lot thicker than previous editions because there are a lot of services across Queensland. So this has just been released. These are free, and they're only free because of amazing support from funders. So they're available to order from our website, the corporate website, but also the handyguide.com.au, which is our online version of this. Please use them and make use of them. There's also a survey a little bit later on for those that have used it. We're keen to get your feedback on the layout and the format, etc., and how you use it. The other project I'd really like to put the spotlight on, and I have spoken about it, I've talked about it a million times to everyone, and I actually believe by talking about it, we've made it happen. But it is our Logan housing project. So this is a project that is going to be featured in one of the panels later as an example of what crisis and partnership can do when coming together. So we've got a housing crisis, we need to provide more housing. We have partners from lots of different sectors that want to be part of a solution. And so through a lot of conversation and energy and shared mutual outcomes, we were able to secure a block of land down in Logan, and through a partnership with the Property Industry Foundation, an incredible team of project team has wrapped around it, including architects like Michael Rayner from Blight Rayner, Saunders Havel, Mace, Kane Constructions, have wrapped around this project and designed the most extraordinary, beautiful housing solution. Once completed, it'll be 4 fully self-contained units. 3 of them are 2-bedroom, 1 is 3-bedroom, 1 is fully accessible for people with a disability. And we've definitely made sure, we're working to the theory that a beautiful place to live is very important to someone's sense of self and their sense of confidence. The design has been fully informed by a group of incredible young mums in Logan through a young parent influencer project that YFS has set up. And these young mums, one of which you'll hear soon, have transformed not just the end product that we're building, but have transformed every single member of that project team who have engaged with these women. In fact, Michael Rayner has said, he's a 60-year-old man, he's won incredible awards, he's very well known, and he said that this project and his engagement, particularly with Kloe, who you'll hear about shortly, has transformed his view of the purpose of architecture and his role within it, and he sees this project as one of his legacy projects. So we had the designs, we've had partnerships to get the designs ready to rock and roll, and we had the land. The next question was, how do we build this? We were lucky enough to come across McNab, and I believe McNab is joining us online, who agreed to build the project at cost, which is extraordinary. And then we had some fundraising to go towards the construction cost, but then we had a big gap. And so the Queensland Government came on board as the most perfect partner to fill that gap, and it made it complete. So the partnership is complete in the sense that it's community, charity, corporate and government. So thank you for the Queensland Department of Housing, and I'd like to pay my respects to Brooke, who's in the room, who shepherded us through the Housing Investment Fund process. Interestingly, all partners that I've mentioned, this is not their usual business, and so everyone is bending themselves to make it work. And again, that's what this event is all about. How do we do things differently so that we don't end up in this crisis again, but in fact we end up with solutions and creativity that means more women get housed? So I'd like to finish by acknowledging the board of the Lady Musgrave Trust. Lisa and I are a very small team, and we could not do it without the support of our incredible board. In the room today we have Louise, who's my president, Jocelyn, who's the treasurer. We have Glenn, Leanne, Judith and Tom. Alison and Anthony can't make it, but I'd just like to very much thank you for the support that you give us. And I would just really encourage everyone to have the most incredible time today.
Thanks, Vic. What an incredible testament to the speakers that we have in store for you today, and indeed to the Lady Musgrave Trust, that we've had to get some more chairs. So if you are still looking for a seat, there are a couple up the front here. Even though they've got papers on them, they're available. If you're sitting next to a spare seat that you're not saving for someone, could you just hold your hand up and perhaps someone from the back might be able to come and take a seat? So as Vic just mentioned, days like today are all about hearing stories from those with first-hand lived experience of the issues that we're trying to solve. I'd like you all to join me in welcoming Kloe, who's here to share her story with us all.
Okay, hello, I'm Kloe. So, how many of you have or know someone who has lived or experienced a life of generational trauma with no home, no opportunities, and no hope? I'm going to share with you some of what this was like for me. Growing up was always a revolving door of houses and strangers, never a home and never love. I never had anywhere to call home. I come from separated and broken parents, and I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of childhood memories, and the ones that I do have, I'd rather not remember or relive. Growing up, I was mostly with my mum and younger siblings, and I don't remember a time that my parents were together. My whole life they hated and fought each other. Both my parents went on to have other children and relationships. My mother was a single mother, and I was the eldest in the house. I found myself parenting the parent and having to grow up way beyond my years. There was always a level of separation between us kids, having different dads, getting taught different things and in different ways. Home life, I was surrounded by substance, alcohol abuse, domestic violence, sexual assaults, mental health, poverty and neglect. Life became harder as a child and the cycle carried on into the next phase. It just kept spinning. I always fiercely protected and loved my siblings like they were my own. I could always see and feel my mother's pain and struggles. I thought I could save her and help her in some way. I thought that a love of a child, her child, would save her. By the final year of my primary school days, I was struggling, bad. At school, I didn't fit in with the other kids. I couldn't do kid things. I had no school supplies. I was always late or never there because I needed to help my mum or just because I ditched school, needing a break, needing an escape. On the days that I was there, I couldn't focus. I couldn't keep up and I was failing and falling behind. Lunchtimes or excursion days were often the most embarrassing, and that's when I really stood out. It wasn't easy to hide in the background. Nobody cared, nobody seen, or did they? I fell through the cracks of the system, but I learnt how to survive. I spent my days on the streets, surviving, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, hanging out with people that I shouldn't have been hanging out with, drinking, getting high, stealing. It felt good, and I felt free. These people, they understood. They understood me, they understood my struggles, and I felt a sense of belonging. By the end of my final year, I couldn't do it anymore, and I was done. I wanted to laugh. I really missed laughing. The abuse, physically, psychologically, mentally, and emotionally, everything at home was just too much. Searching for freedom and a place to fit in. Who here has a 12-year-old? What are they doing now? At 12, I was homeless. I turned to the streets because it was safer, from sleeping in parks to breaking into public toilets just to feel safer that night. Transitioning into high school with such instability, lack of support and circumstances was extremely difficult. It was at this high school that I met a boy. His family took me in and they gave me a roof over my head, my very own room, and it was the nicest thing that anyone had ever done for me, and I was so thankful. I knew I could never repay them for the love and the kindness that they had showed me, the hope that they had given and restored in me. I'd always decided from an early age that I wanted to be a mum and have a baby. I wanted to love and to be loved so desperately. I thought that I could create the stability that I never had. I thought that I could break the cycle. Here I was, young and in love for the first time. In my life, I felt safe, and I had a glimpse of what a home and what love was meant to look like. I wanted it and I needed it. I thought that I'd found the perfect family to have this with. I was 15 when I first fell pregnant. By the 4th month of my pregnancy, I'd become a single mum. And just when I thought I had my little family, I was left alone again, abandoned, and I felt so helpless, so scared. But this time, it was a different scared. 16 years old, I became a mum, and I gave birth to my beautiful baby girl. 6 weeks early, she was strong and healthy. We had nothing, but we had each other. Family domestic violence pushed me to teenage homelessness, then leading to teen pregnancy by choice, needing and wanting that stability, love, and a home. I briefly reconnected with my mother. During this time, I met a man that I would go on to have another 2 daughters with. It was the start of a cycle I never saw coming. How did I miss these signs? Would you see and know the red flags too, or would you miss them just like I did? Not having those core foundations and memories was a disadvantage. Not having guidance and support to fall back on and raising myself. I was uneducated, misinformed, and making decisions I didn't even understand. I found myself making wrong choices, turning to the wrong people to seek love, and always setting myself up for failure. I realised that I wasn't breaking the cycle, I was actually just reliving it, doing exactly what my mother was doing. And even though I was trying not to, and I wanted better for my own children, I needed a way out, I needed help. Just before I moved into the shelter, mentally I'd checked out, I was empty. I think he had a feeling that I was going to leave. I wasn't left alone, not even for a minute, waiting for that opportunity and that safe way out. Have you ever had to create a safety plan in your own home, from your own loved ones? Can you imagine that? Ready to flee with only a couple of bags, what would you pack? I didn't get time to grab my own stuff, sneaking out, kids in tow. The adrenaline was insane. I pulled over and I bawled my eyes out. The realisation sinks in. What do I do now? I have nothing, no family, no friends. Where do I go and what would I do? Who would you call? Do you have anyone that you can trust? I didn't. I couldn't think and I had no one. Imagine this moment and what it would look like for you. Who would you turn to? Where would you go? I left for a reason, but that reason nearly didn't matter anymore, and I nearly went back. But if it wasn't for housing support, I would have. I never had the resources or the capacity, and I was powerless coming from such a situation. I was so vulnerable. I felt like I was given back my power, and I felt fearless. It created a pathway out. It provided not just safety and hope, but freedom and opportunity and a chance. It's unfair to assume that someone has support or support systems in their life just because not everybody does. I grew up relying heavily on support, on community support and engagement. Being a part of YPI, Young Parent Influencers, through YFS has been a privilege for me. Building safe connections and being able to grow and heal in a nurturing and caring atmosphere is so important. Our motto is conversations plus connections equal change. I'm sorry, I'm not finished. That was just my dramatic. We have seen firsthand the benefits and the positive effects that it has on these young women and their children, the power and the change that it can have. Projects like the Lady Musgrave Logan Housing Project reinstill hope that we are finally seen and we are heard, and after being silenced and isolated, we do matter. When everyone tells you that it will be okay, but you don't believe it until you have a roof over your own head, the keys in your hand that you can lock to the door that you close for yourself. Having a safe home that is yours without the fear of losing it is something that we all deserve. Trauma isn't just the bad stuff that happened, it's also the good stuff that never did. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kloe. After a stressful morning of getting here in traffic, that was an incredible speech, and we all would like to acknowledge how difficult it is to tell your own story, but also how important it is for all of us in the room to hear that kind of tale. So thank you, Kloe. Kloe could probably do with this, but today we have a special gift for each of the speakers at the forum. It's a tea gift pack from Tour de Tea, and they've been very generously donated by Brisbane artist Deborah Hood. You'd know Deborah's beautiful artworks of colourful Brisbane streetscapes, and I think there's a beautiful symbolism there about coming together and sharing a cuppa as we build community.